Hey there, fellow comic fans. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about Marvel's Echo. So, recently, Marvel put out a series on Disney Plus called Echo. It's based on a character called Echo, who I have barely read anything of, but was in Daredevil. And then she made her debut in the Hawkeye TV series. But there's a lot of really interesting things to discuss about the Echo series. Disney's produced it differently than they did a lot of the things. They released it differently than a lot of their other TV shows. Has a different sort of focus than a lot of their stuff. So I want to talk about all those, and then most importantly, how I felt about the show. So what I mean by all of that is that Marvel, for the first time, has started to put out sort of more serious content. This is one that you would say is like for adults, as opposed to everything else they've previously done. This one has warnings at the beginning of each episode to warn you against violence, and there is some like extreme violence in the series, and is basically they unveiled a new, it's new to me anyway, um, like Marvel thing called Marvel Spotlight, not the comic Marvel Spotlight, but it's basically, it seemed like it was a thing for mature audiences. And we had heard that they were going to be doing stuff like this um, when they've decided to start bringing in some of the Netflix stuff. So Netflix had sort of series that were definitely more mature for adults, to say like an R rating, like extreme violence, stuff like Punisher and Daredevil and some of their other titles. And since we know that they're working on a Daredevil series with the Netflix actors and bringing those characters in, um, and this is tied into Daredevil because Kingpin's in it and Daredevil also makes a cameo in it. It makes sense that this is going to be more violent. So this is like the first little toe in the water for Marvel, for the MCU Marvel, of having more serious, mature content. And now those Netflix series have been available for a little while as part of Disney Plus. Um, the other thing they did that was different is they released all 5 episodes of the series at the same time. Previously, they've tried to make it like destination television, where they release one episode a week, and so you'll come back and whatever. But this time, they did all 5 episodes at the same time. So first of all, it's only 5 episodes. It's not 8 or 9 or 10 like most of the other series are. Although to be fair, things like Hawkeye and Loki have been 6. This one's only 5. And when you watch them, you can understand why they did that. Because my main complaint about the series, well, I have two, but one of the main ones is it's very slow. Particularly the first episode. There's a lot of setup. It moves very slowly, and it works better if you really think about it as more like a 2.5 hour to 3 hour movie that's just cut into segments. It's designed to be watched all at once. Now we didn't watch it all at once, so it felt very slow. Um, but it was an interesting change in sort of strategy for Marvel to release it with the intention of people binging it and watching the whole series all at once. And I think it was a good idea for this particular story. But it made it very slow to watch. And the other big issue that I have is that we have a character who's not even an anti-hero. So, you know, I'm a big fan of heroes that are just heroes. But anti-heroes, I can value the sort of gray area, particularly when a lot of the stories are about anti-heroes sort of finding their morality or whatever, right? But this goes past that. In the series, Echo is basically just a supervillain. She's a villain, um, and she's only the good guy because she's fighting against a worse villain. So the whole thing of the series is she wants to take out Kingpin because the Kingpin, she discovered at the end of Hawkeye, the Kingpin had killed her father. Um, but what she wants to do is kill Kingpin and then replace him and become the new queen of the underworld. And so it's basically, you have a wannabe gangster, a wannabe mob boss, who's fighting against an actual mob boss. And they're just like, everybody's killing each other. And throughout the series, she ends up going home to Oklahoma, which she hasn't visited since she was a little child. And her extended family is there, like her grandmother's there, and she has cousins and aunts and uncles that are there, right? And she hasn't been in contact really with any of them for like 18 years or however long it's been. And she goes there, and they're all trying really hard to connect with her. And throughout the series, she's basically like, go jump in a lake, pretend I'm not even here, I'm just recuperating so I can go kill a bunch of people and become the mob boss. And she acts like a real jerk to everybody, right? And so the arc isn't like an anti-hero becoming a hero. The arc is a villain kind of becoming an anti-hero. That's the arc, is basically her realizing at the end of the story that you know what, she's been a jerk, and she can reconnect with her family. But that's it. She's still essentially a mobster who's having a gang war with another mobster. She's just slightly nicer at the end of it. And so she's not a good guy. Is she a character to root for? Kind of, but where you're not necessarily rooting for her to beat Kingpin. You're rooting for her to get past her trauma, which is a big part of the theme of the show, so that she's not such a huge jerk to all the nice people that care about her. And she almost gets there by the end of the series, but it makes it kind of a frustrating watch because you're not rooting for the main character so much as you are rooting for the secondary characters who have to put up with her. And you want to tell them, hey, she's not worth it. So those are my two big things. It was slow, and the story and the character were just kind of dark and, you know, frustrating. But that's not to say it was all bad. Actually, some of it was really good. I feel like it was well done, which is important because I'm not someone that really obsesses over how much money Marvel is spending on things or how much they're making or any of that. But I've read that this was significantly cheaper to make than a lot of their other things, and I thought the quality was very good. It was very well made. The acting was good. I like the lead, even though her character was deeply unlikable. I thought she did a really good job. And there's some really interesting thematic stuff. I don't know much about the character Echo. I didn't realize she had any superpowers. I don't know if she does in the comics, but over the course of the story, she gains these superpowers, which basically come from her ancestors. And there's some really cool, like, flashback scenes to different powerful women in the past that have been part of her tribe and how they sort of pass down their powers and to her and sort of have her, how her ancestors watch over her. And a lot of the show is about her reconnecting sort of with her native heritage, which she had left behind as a child when she was brought to New York by her father and raised in the city, right? And so really appreciated that. I thought it was very well done, really interesting, and I really liked all of that stuff. It was very good. It prompted a lot of interesting discussions around my house because my wife is Native, and you know, she didn't grow up around her tribe and stuff, and I don't want to get into too much. That's really my wife's stuff, but it resonated a lot with her and a lot with me, and so we had a lot of really interesting discussions about that. And so, you know, I thought the show was very thought-provoking, and it handled all of the background stuff, all of the stuff with her ancestors and her powers and her native heritage. All that was great. I just wanted her to be less of a supervillain because I don't really like watching shows or movies that are about villains. So if they have I haven't heard anything about them doing a second season. As far as I know, they're not going to be doing one. But if we see more of Echo, you know, in Daredevil or in any of the other Marvel shows or movies, I hope we see her at a future point where she's moved further along the track and is no longer just, a criminal murder, mass murdering supervillain, and is instead actually trying to be a hero. Uh, Ultimately, that's why I watch MCU stuff, and why I like it better than the what DC has traditionally been putting out in movies, and it's also why I like why I was drawn to superhero comics to begin with. Is I want heroes, and it's really hard in media today to find people that are actual heroes, find characters that are heroes, because there's so much emphasis put on um, the dark sides and the bad sides and the issues and all the deconstruction and all that stuff. And I would really like more just heroes. So that may not be a problem for you. So if you don't mind, basically just when you want to go sit down and watch it, think of it as though I'm watching a 2.5 to 3 hour movie. Don't think of it as watching episodes, because if you think of it as watching individual episodes, it's going to be very slow. Whereas if you think of it as you're sitting down for a long form movie, I think mentally you'll be more prepared for the pacing. So all in all, I think it was pretty good. It had a lot of really good stuff that was in the service of a character that I don't really like that much, despite the fact that the actress was really good. So be curious to know what you think. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you next time.